Here's a few tight ends I have as sleepers this week. The first tight end, Michael Mayer of the Las Vegas Raiders, out there in 99% of fantasy leagues. And I know it's championship week now, and some teams in the championship lost Brock Bowers, so they put him on the IR. And now Michael Mayer, next man up in the tight end room over here for this Vegas Raider team. So Mayer, a few years ago, he was a decent drafted tight end in the second round from this Vegas Raider team. And then obviously last season they took Brock Bowers in the NFL draft, and he's been a backup. So early in the season, he had one big game where he filled in when Bowers was out for a few weeks. Week 6 versus Tennessee, he had 5 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown. And now, obviously Bowers, he's been back up until now. So this week, it's a 1-week streaming option play. Obviously, I don't know how much fantasy owners are going to trust Mayer in a championship game, but if you were the Bowers owner and there wasn't many tight ends out there, you might have no choice but to put Mayer in the lineup. And this week, it's a decent matchup versus the New York Giants, where their defense isn't all that great. So if you're in a pinch, especially if you got Bowers and there's no better options, Mayer this week is a sleeper option in a decent matchup. Next tight end, Taysom Hill of the New Orleans Saints. So Taysom Hill, we know he's a gadget guy. He's not really a tight end, but that's what he qualifies on most platforms in fantasy football. And he's out there right now in 86% of fantasy leagues. So last week when Devin Neal, he got hurt and he was out for the Week 16 game, and Audric Estime was the running back, but Taysom Hill took a majority of the touches in that backfield, and they used him all over the field. Was this New Orleans Saints team, 38 pass yards versus the Jets in Week 16, a touchdown, 12 carries, 42 yards, 4 catches, 36 yards, and a fumble loss. So he did a little bit of everything in that ball game as Taysom Hill. And this week it is a good matchup with the Tennessee Titans, where they're one of the worst teams in the league. The defense isn't really that good, but the only thing is we've seen this over the years where Taysom Hill, he'll go out there, get a bunch of touches one game, and then the next week he's barely touching the football or doing much. So with those factors, it's still a little risky, I think, to put Taysom Hill in your lineup, because you just don't know 100% what his role is going to be in the ball game. But like I said, if you're in a tough situation at the tight end position, or you play multiple flexes, or whatever the case may be in your leagues, I think Taysom Hill is an okay sleeper option. In the final tight end, Colby Parkinson of the Los Angeles Rams. It's not looking up that Davante Adams is going to play in this week's game. And I know last week he didn't play, but it was the Puka Nacua show with 225 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns in that one. And Colby Parkinson, where people thought he would go out there and have a good game, he didn't do much, only 4 targets with 2 catches, 21 yards in that ball game at Seattle. But this week, a good matchup with the Atlanta Falcons. I know the Falcons give up the second least amount of fantasy points to tight ends on the season, but with this Ram offense, this is an offense, it doesn't matter what type of D or what the stats say. This offense puts points on the board, and Parkinson, he was definitely playing good football before last week's game, where he had 3 out of 4 games with double-digit fantasy points. Week 14 versus Arizona, 3 catches, 32 yards, a touchdown. Week 15 versus the Lions, 5 catches, 75 yards, 2 TDs. And then, like I said last week, Week 16 at the Seahawks, 2 catches, 21 yards. So I think Parkinson bounced back. Indoor game, obviously, always a plus at the lane on the fast track. And we know this Ram team, they're going to put points on the board, and they're pretty much coming off a mini bye where they played on Thursday in Week 16, and now here in Week 17, it's a Monday night game, so that's a few tight ends I have as sleepers for Week 17 of the fantasy football season.